Hey there, sorry about that. Had gone live and then cut off. But I have a question for you, uh, and that is, how much do you love liberty? And let me put it in perspective. I mean, the ability to decide where you're going to travel, where you're going to like vacation, the ability to decide where you're going to go to church, how you're going to worship, the ability to decide like how you're going to think. What about where you're going to work, what you're going to do with your time, what you're going to do with your body, where you're going to live? What about the ability to make sure that if someone does something wrong to you, that there's a system that tries to correct that, or that tries to stop the abuse? What about that? I'm going to come into the shade here a little bit because it's a little bright, and hopefully you can get a better picture here. So, I'm talking about real life liberty here. I'm talking about everyday liberty. And like, how much does that mean to you? How much do you cherish that in your heart? To be able to wake up in the morning and to be able to decide for yourself what you're going to do, whether it's go to work, continue to do what you're doing, what about having the amount of children that you want to have, that being a decision between you and your spouse. What about who you're going to marry? All of these things are liberty. This is true liberty, and they are, whether you recognize it or not, these everyday liberties are being threatened. And the main reason why they're being threatened is because most people are not willing to pay the price to be free. They think that, you hear the term, freedom isn't free. Well, for some reason, people think that they can remain free and not pay a price. And I would have to say that those that logically have to acknowledge to themselves that freedom isn't free, but they still don't act in ways in which preserves freedom, those people are typically afraid. They're afraid to act. They're afraid to do what it takes to push back the bounds of other people trying to encroach upon liberty, personal liberty. They're afraid to do that because they don't want to get arrested, or they don't want to ruffle feathers, or they don't want to look bad. Maybe they think that, they're going to be disgruntled or segregated in their community or whatever. And so they don't do what it takes. And that's becoming such a common thing across this country that we are losing, we are tremendously losing our liberties. I don't have to remind you, and we keep going back to us, but we cannot forget what happened and what is still happening today. But especially what happened in the early months of 2020 and throughout 2020, and where our churches were closed. And, I received documentation through a subpoena that I did through Ada County Sheriffs. And they showed us a full thread of emails they had to disclose to me, a full thread of emails where the top law enforcement officers in the county, the cities, and the state were plotting to raid and arrest us in April for having our Easter service, during our Easter service. And imagine that they're planning to, literally plotting among themselves and emailing each other with the FBI and including the FBI Joint Terrorist Task Force, where they're communicating and plotting of how they're going to raid this Easter service and arrest people. And that's amazing to think about. So, the right to worship, where, when, and how. that protected right by our Constitution was just thrown out the window? I mean, what were these people thinking? That they thought in some way that they could raid a church service on Easter, and somehow that was justifiable by the law? And then, I mean, I could go on. I mean, in Idaho, and we're talking about Idaho, right? We're talking about Idaho. It's supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the rugged individual. We now have probably, if you tally it all, a couple dozen people at least that have been arrested for going into public buildings during public meetings. And our laws in Idaho couldn't be more clear. I wish my phone wasn't taking this video. I'd read you a few things about what the legislatures and what the law of Idaho says about being able to come in and participate in public meetings. There's solid laws, but the officers and those in government act like those laws don't even exist anymore, to the point where, dozens and dozens of people are being arrested for literally participating according to the law. And they're being trespassed from public property. And prosecuted, literally. And then when we demand our trials, right, our jury trials, speedy trial, the Idaho Supreme Court right now again has suspended jury trials. I mean, think about that. Trials were something, jury trials were something that the founders made so secure in our Constitution, and each state constitution secures that right as well. And they did it because what was happening before they won the Independence War is that these bureaucrats, these government people, and the judges and the officers were arresting people for frivolous things or whatever they wanted, and then they weren't giving them a jury trial. They were forcing them either into jail for years or months and months and years, or they were forcing them to be judged by a judge through a bench trial, and there was no justice there. And so they made it secure in our founding documents that the right of a person, the accused, to have a speedy and public jury trial was protected, so that person can, become free quickly from that, and so that the people can decide, not a judge, not officers or the bureaucrats, so that the people can decide whether the person was guilty or not guilty. Well, that's been suspended in Idaho still today. And so we have all these people, and we have all these people in jail, and they're not able to go to trial, and their families are just waiting there, just mourning, trying to get somewhere to a sense of justice. And our Idaho Supreme judges, I don't even want to call them supreme, think that they have a right to suspend jury trials. I mean, it baffles me. And I'm telling you this, why? Because our everyday liberties are really, really being threatened. And that the threat, just because, you're able now to walk around and go around and walk around outside, and maybe you're able to walk around outside without a mask, then all of a sudden, do we think that we're free now and that we're out of the woods? We're not anywhere close to out of the woods. Almost all the states still today still have, governor, executive, full control. And in Idaho, it's a martial law. Idaho's Governor Little has implemented clear back in March 25th, a martial law, and put the state of Idaho, the people of Idaho, in martial law. And he has maintained that still to this day. He literally has maintained that. And now, I've said this over and over, but he put the people under martial law, which suspends all other branches of government. And then he collected billions, that we know close to $10 billion from the federal government. And we believe that there's more. We just haven't got access to that understanding yet. $10 billion that he says in his own orders, because now, right, he's declared martial law, or a dictatorship. He's declared martial law, so he's the king now. And then he made an order that says he gets to decide where all the money goes. And it actually even says in his executive order, at the pleasure of the governor, he gets to decide where all this billions and billions of dollars go that he received from the federal government for COVID. And it wasn't for COVID. Let's throw that out the window, because he has no intention on spending it for COVID related. He's been open about that. He can spend it however he wants. He's the dictator. And so that's in Idaho. And don't you think that the same thing is happening, in your state? It is. It is happening in your state. You just might not know it yet. You just probably haven't done the research that we have done to determine and to see legally what your governor has done. Our governor has done this using martial law, Idaho codes, and he's extended it and said that it's a rolling order. So moving on, I had a meeting last night. We talked about it. We talked about solutions and how we combat it. Because someone has to pay a price. And, I've been trying to pay the price here in Idaho. Others have too, so I'm not alone. We're going to continue. But it's tiring to see not very many people that's willing to do it, even in Idaho. It's actually very discouraging. So last night, we had a group of people together, and we discussed, because in the morning, which was this morning, there was an individual by the name of Garth, and he had an arraignment for actually being at the courthouse on March 15th, and they arrested him during the same time that I was arrested for failure to appear when I'm trying to come into my trial. That's a whole nother story. I won't get into that too much. But anyhow, so Garth is going to get arraigned for terrible, frivolous, false charges, and he doesn't want to get arraigned by Zoom. He wants to see the judge. He wants to face his accusers. So he announces that he's going to go to the courthouse and demand that he gets into the courthouse. Well, they have a mask mandate there. And, hey, Elias, I'm on a video. Can you take your little puppy and go somewhere else? Thanks, bud. Sorry about that. Here, I'll give you a little shot of these two. They're pretty cute. So there's Elias, and there's his little puppy. Okay? Can you say hi?
Hi.
His little puppy's down there hiding. Anyway, that's by far probably the best part of the video. So, so he decides he wants to face his accusers, and he goes to the courthouse. And we knew he was going to go. And one of my complaints of what's happening in Idaho, and one of the reasons for this video, is that we're getting a bunch of people together to go to the courthouse and to support each other. And, like at the Capitol building, what happened to me, just being there peaceful. And the problem is that everybody is too afraid to get arrested or to stand. They'll support and they'll go, you dirty cops, you oath breakers, and they'll try to tell them that this is against the law and that this is, that it's against the Constitution, and they're absolutely right. But and then as soon as the officers say, you better leave, they just leave. Boom, they leave. And they leave one or two people, their neighbors, who are willing to stand. They leave them in that situation, and then those people get arrested. And then they have to start to go through the system and get literally railroaded through the system with the excuse of COVID and no trials and no in-person hearings and no in-person arraignments. You don't even see the judge. They want you to receive due process through a camera or through a phone. The whole system is so absolutely, completely lost. And these people are willing to just stand and watch their neighbor, who's and get destroyed. And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm tired of people that say that they're patriots watching their neighbor get literally disseminated by these tyrants and them just standing by. Now, I'm not asking anybody, at this point to physically defend their neighbor. I believe that that's the right thing to do. But just think about this. Just think like what happened at the courthouse this morning. And let me explain it. So again, there's like 30 people there at the courthouse supporting Garth. And I wasn't there. I got there just a little late. I got there about, 5-10 minutes late. Between 5 and 10 minutes late. But what happened is Garth gets there. They have almost the whole courthouse barricaded off. And he says, I'm here to report for my arraignment. And they say, well, you have to wear a mask. And he says, I don't wear a mask. I don't feel it's right. I don't like the government taking the position that they could tell me what to wear. And so they have to. So he just starts to try to walk in and go into the courthouse. And they tackle him and arrest him. And then another lady, Lori, she's a patriot, and another individual named Paul, who's a patriot, followed Garth, and they tackled them and arrested them. And everybody else backs away and watches them do that. And now you got 3 more people that are getting trespassing charges for being at the courthouse. One of them had every right to be there in the sense that they were summoned to be there to participate in the arraignment, right? And everybody else just watches it happen. These are some of our best patriots, supposedly, in Idaho. And yeah, they know I love them. I mean, I do. I love them. But I am so disappointed. We talked about it last night. Now think of what would happen if all 30 of those people insisted on following Garth and insisted on getting arrested for going into a public building that they had a right to be in. And it could be completely peaceful. There's no need. It could be completely peaceful. But now what happens? Now the court has to process 30 people. And then just think of, say, this afternoon or tomorrow. Well, I guess tomorrow's Saturday, but Monday. Just think if we got 100 or 200 people to go to the courthouse, do the same thing, insist that they get in, start pushing their way past that invisible line that supposedly is trespassing on the courthouse steps, right? I mean, our laws are so clear. The courthouse is supposed to be open to all people. It says that in our Constitution. Article 1, Section 18 of the Idaho State Constitution. Go to it. Courts of justice shall be open to all people. That's what it says. But they have the courts blocked, barricaded with armed guards. That's how obvious this is. But anyhow, imagine now 100 or 200 people forcing their way to get arrested. Now the system has to process hundreds of people. Right? And hundreds of people they're peaceful. Big deal. It's a misdemeanor trespassing charge. Big deal. Right? $30 bond to get out. Is that worth liberty? Is that worth making a stand? I think so. But people are so afraid. Literally, our court, even Ada County, which is the largest county population in the state of Idaho, cannot handle 200 people fighting for their rights in the courts. Filing motions, insisting jury trials, insisting speedy trial rights be upheld. They could not handle it. And we continue to do it over and over across the state of Idaho, across the country, right? We continue to do this and we bog down the courts. So they finally say, look, don't arrest people for being at public buildings. We can't handle it. We have to focus on the real criminals. Well, guess what? That's what they should do in the first place, right? But they have to be reminded. They're tyrants. They think they can tell people how they should wear, what they should wear over their faces or even on their bodies. They literally believe that they could do whatever they want, that they can make any rule. I mean, obviously, look at the Supreme Court of Idaho. The Constitution, both U.S. and state, secures the right of a jury trial. But yet, we have the Idaho Supreme Court that thinks that they can suspend it. They don't have any authority to suspend it. They do not have authority. That is a constitutionally protected right, and it is enforced by the statutes of Idaho and from the legislatures. And you got now the judicial branch saying that they're overriding the Constitution and overriding the legislatures. Yet they do it every day, and everybody lets them get away with it. And it's happening across the country. So we have to make a stand. We either stand physically and say, you dirty, rotten, I won't even say it. You dirty, rotten, oh man, I want to just go off on them, right? But I'm going to bite my tongue. And we either do that and we stand in open defense with our weapons and our arms. And if they try to come in any way, we defend ourselves, and then we put them under tribunal. And we hold them accountable if they do anything to us in defense only. We either do that or we do something like I'm talking about, where we peacefully go in and grind this terrible injustice system to a halt by good, honest, moral people going into the courts across this state, across this country, in droves, and insisting that they prosecute us and try to use this system against us. And we will completely turn it around. And I mean, the more I think about this and the more I, entertain and see, how awesome would it be? I mean, it doesn't need to be a scary thing. A couple hundred of us get together. We go down to the courthouse. I mean, we could be celebrating, high-fiving each other while we're getting arrested. We could have music. I mean, we could be enjoying, we could be dancing in the courtyard until it's our turn to be arrested. And then afterwards, we get together and we have big old get-togethers where we're talking about what motion we're going to file. We're working on each other's cases together. We're communicating and talking. And the judges and the clerks and the officers, they're going absolutely crazy because they cannot handle it. And every time they want to, arraign us by Zoom, well, we don't do Zoom. We have a right to face our accusers. So 100 of us go down and we all try to get in. We all get arrested or get failure to appear again. And we just bog. There's no way they could handle this type of response from the people. And I believe there's a chance. There's at least a chance. It might be a small chance, but I think it's worth it. I think there's a chance that we could correct a lot of wrongs by doing this. I do believe. And plus, it's our duty. It's our duty to stand against unjust laws. It's our duty. And it's our duty to stand with our neighbors when they're being, prosecuted by unjust laws and these tyrants. I mean, Judge Manweiler, he's become one of the most wicked people in Idaho, what he's doing. He's signing warrants for officers to come in, good people's homes, ladies, families' homes in the middle of the night, kicking their door because they were at a public meeting and they didn't wear a mask, or because they went to a legislature's home who's literally being a tyrant and they protested at their house. That's what Judge Manweiler's doing. That's the type of person he is. Even when it's purely proven in the law that we have a right to go into our own meetings, our own public meetings, he's upholding the prosecutor's will. I mean, and he's not the only judge, but he's becoming one of the most wicked men in Idaho. Now, do I believe that he can change and repent? Absolutely. That's what the Lord's atonement is for. But he is a wicked man. He is becoming a wicked man by his actions. And so I say we make him, pay for it. I say we we get together and we do this. And you know, I'm going to propose it to the people of Idaho, that this is what we do. And I hope, my goal would be to have 500 people across the state of Idaho, you know, northern, central, southern, eastern, that 500 people that these wicked oath breakers arrest. And, you know, and they're charged with at least one misdemeanor. And then we're enforcing that they give us a jury trial, a speedy trial, that they, and we're filing good, solid motions to defend each person. And we're making the clerks and the judges and the marshals, which they're called basically in Idaho, the bailiffs are marshals here. And we're going through this process to try to straighten out a little piece of our government here and try to stop them, because I think the only solution, if we are resolute, is that they stop arresting us and stop enforcing these wicked, you know, policies. And that's what they are. And so I encourage you guys across the country, and, you know, you in Idaho here, I'm going to start pushing this. I'm going to give you a choice. If this is the direction you want to go, or if you want to go another way, because I only see it two ways. We either go in and do something like this, which is really peaceful, or we just stand in open defense against these wicked people that'll try to infringe upon our everyday liberties. And remember, what are those liberties? Those liberties are the right to worship, where, when, and how, to decide what we're going to do with our time, with our labor, our energy, with our bodies, to decide what we're going to wear and what we're not going to wear, to decide where we're going to travel, where we're going to live, how many children we have. This is liberty. And they're being crushed, even in Idaho. And so that's what I'm here to do. I want to, you know, give a little shout out to Lori Marr, who stood with Garth. I want to thank Garth for being willing. And I also want to thank Paul. Paul, I don't know your last name yet. I probably should. I just know that you were there and you know who I am. Because these were people that are willing to get arrested and willing to stand for each other today. And the rest of you, I hope that you think about, you know, standing with your neighbor and for your neighbor rather than watching him get arrested. And, you know, I love everybody and I'm grateful for your time. Thank you.